News for Jax, getting updated information throughout the course of this Wednesday morning on two shooting scenes, one on the south side. Melanie Lawson is there. We'll be checking in with her in a bit. Meantime, we are staged as well on the west side, where a police officer was involved in a shooting, taken by helicopter to UF Health with life-threatening conditions. And Jen, police did manage to catch up with the suspect.
They did, and we are hearing from sources that that suspect was shot and killed. Learned that information about 10-15 minutes ago. We do know that Sheriff Williams is expected to address the public and the news media at 8:45 to give us an idea of how this happened. Let's bring in Nikki Kimbleton, who just arrived live on the scene. And Nikki, we know from what we are hearing that this started as if police were investigating a truck theft.
Yeah, and we're still waiting for more information to find out exactly those details about that investigation, Jen. What I can tell you, we are here at 84 Lumber. This is the media staging area. I'm going to step out of the way and have Chris zoom in to this intersection here at Collins Road and Roosevelt. That is where some people who were driving by this morning say that they saw a life flight land and then take off. And inside that helicopter was the officer who was flown to UF Health and has life-threatening injuries. We are waiting for Sheriff Mike Williams right now. He should be arriving any moment, and he is going to be giving us some updated information. Again, that is really the most information we have now, other than what you already mentioned about that suspect and sources telling us that he was shot and killed. Again, we're waiting to find out more information about what led up to this shooting. Mike Williams should be here any moment. Also, our crime and safety analyst Gil Smith headed to the scene to give us more perspective on this occurrence this morning, and we will bring you that press conference live as soon as it happens. In the meantime, the sheriff's office asking if you are so inclined to please pray for that officer. Back to you guys.
And Nikki, thank you very much. And the officer's family apparently has been notified. There will be a significant police presence there as well at UF Health, because these officers are family and they will be there for each other and for support. Now to the situation on the south side. There was a workplace shooting. What we understand is there was a lumber company that's back in an area behind, a landscaping company, back in an area behind Deer Creek Country Club on the south side. And apparently there are two people involved. One person was killed. Melanie Lawson is there. We'll be checking in with her throughout the course of the morning. This is the second workplace shooting here in the Jacksonville area. The other was in Clay County. What was it? Monday.
Park, yeah, on Monday in Orange Park. That was at Jacksonville Granite, where a man who had worked at the business for less than a month walked in, was working, left, returned with a gun, and started shooting, wounded one person. That person, thankfully, was released from the hospital yesterday. Back to what's happening, though, on the south side. You mentioned it's near Deer Creek Country Club. It's also near the avenues. It's kind of off of Phillips. It's on Spinner Road, I believe it was, or Spanner Road. McLaren. And it was interesting because this is not a business, obviously, that you and I can go to buy landscaping. This is specifically where workers, perhaps in the construction business, contractors can go pick up, plants and brush and whatnot and take it to other places. And it sounds as if one worker shot another worker and killed him.
And we talked to some of the people who live in that particular neighborhood, and they said, look, I know here this all the time, this kind of thing doesn't happen here, but they say it is a very quiet neighborhood. The man says he walks his dog all the time, and the people there at the landscaping business will wave to him. They feel very safe, and they're just very surprised and shocked that this is happening. What you're looking at right now is the live picture filtering in from Collins and Roosevelt. Still a very active scene. Nikki was telling us that there were a number of police officers that rushed into the area. Keep in mind, because we do have a suspect who is dead, and we have a police officer who is in life-threatening condition right now. They are going to comb the area, looking for every piece of evidence possible to put together this story. What we think has happened, based on the sources we've talked to, is that a truck was stolen. And then it makes sense that the officer who was involved somehow either was pursuing that truck driver, the person who stole the truck, or was trying to stop them. Bullets rang out. And as we understand it, the suspect wasn't caught right there at that scene. The police staged somewhere else, stopped him, shot him, and that person died.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because just looking at the scene here, you don't see a lot of crime scene investigative units there. You see, and that actually looks like a newspaper photographer.
Right.
But so it's interesting that perhaps not a whole lot happened at that intersection, other than perhaps the officer was shot there. But that truck did take off, because we know from Jacksonville Fire Rescue that there was a shooting very close to there nearby. We are also hearing that Sheriff Mike Williams Williams has arrived on scene. In fact, is just getting out of the car. Again, this is at Collins Road and Roosevelt Boulevard on the west side, where a police officer is in life-threatening condition.
Go back to that live picture. You'll see Nikki Kimbleton. You'll see Melissa Bujeda, who's the public information officer for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Come on, guys, get me that picture, because Sheriff Williams is coming up right now.
As you guys are all aware, we had an officer-involved shooting this morning. We had an officer shot right down on the railroad tracks on Collins Road between Blanding and Roosevelt. So at this time, we're not going to release his name at this time. We have more family notifications to make. He was life-flighted from Collins and Roosevelt, as you may have seen. We still are digging into the details of the case. We're not exactly sure at this point what has happened, but we've got witnesses at the scene that we're interviewing now. We're talking to those people and obviously forensically looking at the scene and trying to make some determination about what happened. We're not able to talk to the officer. He is in surgery currently in critical condition at UF Health. So,
Sheriff, where was he ambushed?
At this point, I don't have any of those details right now. I've heard a lot of different things, so rather than release something that we're not really sure of.
Was the suspect shot?
Suspect was shot. Suspect fled the scene, was actually chased by a couple of officers. There may be a carjacking involved in that as well, that he carjacked a vehicle to leave the scene. He was apprehended and shot and apprehended at a scene further down Collins Road.
Is that the scene that was on Oak Crossing
Yes,
Drive?
correct. That's it.
Is he deceased?
He is not. He is not.
So the suspect is still alive?
Suspect is alive, yes, correct.
And it was not shot here at this intersection?
No, it was at the Oak
Crossing Drive.
Oak Crossing Drive. So two scenes we're working. Obviously Collins Road, and we'll get more information out briefly this afternoon at some point, but Collins Road may be closed a better part of the day. So we'll have some traffic issues to talk about with everybody here in the next couple hours.
So where was the officer
shot in his car?
Well, at this point we don't completely know. The front windshield of the car shot up pretty well, and the officer was outside the car when the other units arrived. So again, we're digging into those details, talking to witnesses, and we'll know more later in the day.
Sheriff, we heard that this may have started because of a stolen vehicle. Do you have any information about that?
No, I do not, and I have not heard that. So I don't. I've heard a lot of different scenarios, but that's not one of them.
Was the officer
further update shortly.
The officer was shot here. What location was the officer shot?
The officer was shot right around the corner of the railroad tracks on Collins Road. Yeah. So from that scene, they went to there was a foot pursuit, a car pursuit, my understanding, and then another foot pursuit that ended in the suspect being shot and apprehended. Correct.
Sheriff, can you tell us, was the officer conscious and able to give details?
He was conscious when he left the scene, but we have not talked to him in terms of details yet. So.
Do you have a suspect's name or age?
We do not.
Was the officer alone when he was shot?
He was not alone, and we're putting that together now. So we'll have more detail about that later in the day.
Was he a uniformed officer?
He was not in uniform. He is not assigned to a uniform assignment. So again, we're looking into that.
Is he a detective?
He is a detective.
So he was
a detective.
on duty?
He was not on duty at the time. Not on duty.
He was not on duty at the time.
No.
So I know this is just your worst case scenario.
Right.
When you talked to the family today, what did they have to say?
Well, I've not talked to them yet, so I'm going to go to the hospital as soon as I leave here and speak to the family. So.
Is this connected to any other shootings that have happened this morning?
No, I don't believe so.
I was just wondering, you mentioned a carjacking. Is that related to the officer's car at Roosevelt?
No. The carjacking, there may be a carjacking involved, and that would be when the suspect was attempting to flee. So we're piecing all these details together now. We've got some witness testimony. We've got obviously the testimony of the officers initially arriving at the scene. What we do not have as of yet is anything from the suspect or the officer. So when we get that, we can be able to complete this puzzle. There's a few down there.
So just to clarify, you said the officer arriving on the scene. The officer who was shot was arriving on the scene to a reported carjacking?
No, that's not correct. That is not correct. A carjacking, as the suspect fled the scene, there may be a carjacking involved, a carjacking or an auto theft that he was trying to do to escape.
Okay.
That's where the carjacking and auto theft.
The witnesses that are there, are they other officers or just people that live in the area?
We have a commuter, we have someone who works in the area, and a couple of other people that I believe either live or work in the area.
What instigated the...
We don't know yet. We don't know.
What was the confrontation about it? Was between that, and then the guy ran and that sort of thing, but something happened to start.
Obviously, yeah, we're not sure at this point. Yeah, correct.
Since the officer was off duty, why was he on scene in the first place? Was there did he live around?
Well, that again, those are the things that we are looking at this point, and we're not sure what the interaction was initially, what caused the officer to take some type of action, which he's legally able to do, and we encourage, obviously. So we don't know the details of that yet. As soon as we have that, we'll talk about it this afternoon.
And do you know if he actually shot the suspect or if it was somebody else who shot the suspect?
There was an exchange of gunfire at the initial scene and also at the scene where the suspect was apprehended. Who shot the suspect when, we at this point do not know. We believe the officers, obviously at the scene where the suspect was apprehended, shot the suspect. Was the suspect hit in an exchange of gunfire with this officer? We don't know that yet. So we're looking at all that, and we'll have those details this afternoon. So.
What about those other officers that were involved at the second scene? I know typical protocol is that they
same protocols in place. Absolutely,
right.
Same protocols in place. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate it.
All right, so Sheriff Mike Williams.
That's Sheriff Mike Williams. What we know is that officer is in critical condition in the hospital right now, and apparently the suspect was shot but was not killed. You've got to understand that in situations like this, there is news that is given, even sometimes by, credible sources, but, things change as the day unfolds. News4JAX crime and safety analyst Gil Smith has gotten some information from his sources, and basically he says that it's a narcotics officer who was off duty, who was involved here, apparently got behind the truck. Don't know if the person crashed or got out, and that's when that person shot at the officer. The officer was apparently hit in the stomach.
It's interesting because the officer, the detective, the narcotics detective who was injured and is now fighting for his life in the hospital was, as we heard Sheriff Williams mention, was not alone. So there are witnesses there, presumably, and perhaps his partner or someone else that was in the car with him. Since he was not working at the time, it's hard to tell who was there. But they have a commuter, they have law enforcement, and they certainly have other witnesses as well. So we hope to learn more. Interesting, though, is that the man that was involved in this, who shot this officer, didn't leave in the car that he was in, but actually, according to what Sheriff Williams just said, it appears that he might have carjacked. Yes, another car, so another driver, and pulled them out and then took off with their car.
But he's not been able to confirm that.
Yeah.
That's what the sources are saying right now. So you've got two scenes. You have the one at Collins and Roosevelt. Then you have the one where the suspect was shot at Collins and Oak Crossing Drive. To give you, there's some railroad tracks back there. Give you some idea. And the sheriff did say because of the ongoing investigation, Collins will probably be closed for the better part of the day. All right, let's get to the Southside shooting. It is a workplace-involved shooting where one person is dead. We're on top of that as well.
Melanie's joining us now with the latest from police. Melanie?
Hey, Patty, good morning. Lieutenant Danny Adams and Sergeant.
All right, so we have Lieutenant Danny Adams and Sergeant Chuck Ford to give us the very latest on this scene of business. Tell us exactly what happened. We know that one worker, from what we're being told by some of the other workers and their family members, was killed at this business.
What happened at 7:06, Zone 3 officers were dispatched to 7748 Spanner Road in response to a person being shot. Upon arrival, the officers were able to quickly locate the suspect vehicle. Just a few blocks away, the suspect was taken into custody without incident, and the victim was deceased at the scene. I'm going to turn this over to Sergeant Chuck Ford, a homicide, regarding the investigation.
What we have determined at this point is that we have a suspect and our victim. We're located here at the workplace here off of Spanner Road. We will be working with the personnel here at the business throughout the rest of the day, trying to find out exactly what happened. We'll let you know that we do have a deceased person here at the business. He is an employee here at the business. We also have a person in custody. As far as the details of the investigation, which I'm sure everybody has a lot of questions about that, we really are not at liberty to discuss that yet, due to the fact that we really haven't gotten into the meat and the potatoes of this investigation. This thing happened rather quickly. As you can tell, today's been a very busy news day, and we've gotten a lot of things that have happened. Our detectives are just getting into the interviews with the witnesses, and we have several people who were here, as you can imagine. This was a workplace. There were several people coming to work that actually witnessed what happened, and we'll be talking to them through the rest of the day and be able to provide some additional details as to what exactly transpired today. I will tell you that we do have a suspect in custody, and at this point, this area is deemed safe. Several officers will be on the scene for the rest of the day, as well as detectives, to be able to give better assessment as to what happened.
And not to.
Landscaping company? It is a landscaping business.
And
Yes, it is B&L Landscaping.
And again, we talked with some of the witnesses and people who have family members. They heard gunshots. They told us that they both worked at this business, B&L Landscaping. Can you confirm that?
I'll confirm there was gunshots here at the business. I will tell you there's an employee and employer relationship, but as far as who the persons are, I'm not going to be able to determine that at this point. We have next of kin information that we have to release, and we have to find those next of kin. And really, we have to identify exactly who all the persons were. And that's part of my detectives that are there at the scene. As you could tell if you were here earlier, there are a multitude of detectives here that will be working throughout the day to kind of determine that.
Where is the suspect, and is he cooperating?
The suspect is in police custody, and at this point we haven't got into the interview.
You are watching the news at 9 on Channel 4.
Toward that goal.
You mentioned what a busy morning it has been news-wise. Is there any indication maybe this suspect or this incident has anything to do with everything else we're seeing in Jacksonville, or is this isolated?
Very early in the investigation, but there's nothing to indicate that at this point.
Have you guys been to this business ever before? I mean, have there been fights, discord between any of the employees?
That'll be part of our investigation as the day goes on. We'll look through our CAU data, our crime analyst data. We'll talk to the employees, see if there's anything that didn't just happen here, but may have happened at other locations, maybe between employee, employer, or even just employees that maybe they had some type of discord.
This is the second workplace-related shooting on the First Coast this week. I mean, is that concerning?
I think we always have to be vigilant in our endeavors whenever we go to work, whenever we go home. I mean, it's about being vigilant and knowing your workplace, support, being safe in your environment, be vigilant, be safe, and contact the police if you notice suspicious activity. And that's something that we always want to look toward, and that's what the law enforcement would suggest to all the businesses in this, not just this area, and just in the country.
And this happened right at the beginning of the workday? I mean, how many people were there when this happened?
7:06. I can't give you an exact number. Again, that'll be part of our investigation.
For our viewers just joining us, do you mind giving us a recap off the top? And if you would, can you add what we know about the victim, male, female?
I'm really not going to get into the male and female or the victim part at this point. I will tell you that we had a person shot at a business earlier today here on Spanner Road. That person is a individual who works at the business. You know, we have like I said, it was a workplace incident, and we are getting very early in the investigation. Suspect is in custody at this point, and the homicide detectives are here on the scene. They'll be working through the investigation. Our patrol did a great job of getting here on the scene, able to lock down the suspect, take the suspect into custody, and deem this area safe in a rather quick manner.
Any idea how many shots were fired or what gun was used?
I do not. That'll be part of our investigation as it goes through.
Do you know if there's surveillance video?
Be part of the investigation as it goes, as it progresses through.
And Lieutenant, can you talk a little bit about how this unfolded as far as being able to arrest the suspect? Was he on property when he was arrested? Did he leave the scene?
He was just a few blocks away from the business. Patrol had a very quick response to this. We even had off-duty units responding as well with the on-duty units, so we were able to take him in custody very quickly.
And we're not releasing his name, obviously, but and not also confirming that he worked at that business.
That's part of the investigation they're conducting right now.
Will the landscaping place be closed today?
It'll be shut down for a while as homicide conducts their investigation.
Anything else that?
Anything else we have will come through the homicide office later on today.
Okay, thank you.
Very much for your help.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, we're getting the very latest from the lieutenant and sergeant here on the scene today. And what they're saying is it's B&L Landscaping here on the south side. And there was one worker who works here at the business who was shot and killed this morning as he came to work at 7 o'clock this morning. There were several witnesses also on the scene who they are interviewing to pinpoint exactly what happened here today. They were able to arrest the suspect a short distance away. They said off-patrol officers were here and they responded as well. Again, though, I have talked with workers, family members who did say that this person did work here at the scene, but again, police not ready to confirm that yet. So we'll continue to gather information. As soon as we get the very latest, we'll bring it to you. We're live here on the south side. Back to you.
Thank you, Mel. And it's certainly not unusual that police are being tight-lipped about certain specifics because it's an ongoing investigation. But we do have some information from credible sources, people who knew the business and knew some of the people who worked there. Our other breaking news scene happens on the west side near Collins and Roosevelt. The bottom line is that a police officer has been shot, taken to the hospital in critical condition with what have been described as life-threatening injuries. And then you had the suspect who apparently took off on foot, who was confronted by police and shot. Don't know where that person is being treated right now.
Yes, but we do know that that person is in custody. We know that the officer who was involved in the shooting, who is now, quite frankly, from what we're hearing, in critical condition, fighting for his life, is a narcotics detective and was not on duty at the time. So we are still waiting for information from the sheriff, who just briefed the news media and the public about 15 minutes ago as to why he was there and why he had that confrontation with the person who was driving the car that shot him.
And we probably will not have that police officer's name for a while. Sheriff Williams told News4JAX that not all the family has been notified yet, and they certainly want to take care of that. Channel 4's Nikki Kimbleton is there live on the scene. The sheriff also made it clear, because the investigation is still ongoing, that Collins will probably be closed for the better part of the day, Nikki.
Yeah, in fact, we're at 84 Lumber this morning, and it happened right around the corner from here on Collins Road near the railroad tracks, and that road will likely be closed because there are two different scenes that they are investigating where gunshots were fired on those two different scenes, so that's going to take a while to collect all that evidence. The sheriff says that they really don't know what led up to the shooting this morning. Again, as you mentioned, they know that that is an off-duty narcotics officer who was there. They say that he was not alone. We don't know who else may have been in the vehicle at the time. Again, he was off duty, so it could have even been a family member, but we do know that there were some witnesses in the area. The one was a commuter, the sheriff said, and then some other people who live in the area who are talking to officers right now. He said that the officer, who is in life-threatening condition, is in surgery currently, and they are unable to talk with him, and he's not sure if he may have said anything during that trip with Life Flight to UF Health. Life Flight actually landed right behind me here on the corner of Collins and Roosevelt and took that officer to the hospital. And again, we're waiting to get more information about who that officer is, how long he's been on the force, but Sheriff Williams says that they just want to make sure all his family has been notified before they release his name. I want to go ahead and bring in our crime and safety analyst, Gil Smith. Gil, I know that you have been working this story this morning, and you have some information. You know a little bit more about this officer's injuries.
Not more about his injuries, just pretty much what you had said, that he is a narcotics officer. Not sure if he was on duty or off duty or what exactly the situation was, but at some point the car either crashed or stopped, came out, fired at the officer, and then either by other officers, that person who was shooting at the officer was killed.
We also heard from Sheriff Williams that when that suspect took off, that there may have been some carjacking involved, and then officers shot at him at another location. Do you have any information on the suspect's injuries?
No, nothing at all on the suspect's injuries. Right now, like I said, you have several crime scenes going on, so they're running about trying to get everything figured out. Now, it makes it even much more difficult when you have the emotions involved, because here in Jacksonville, you really don't have this type of serious shooting of a police officer that occurs very often. In fact, it's been several years. So as an investigator, this is something that would be new to them, because it is still a fairly young police department. So this is going to be the first time that some of these detectives and officers have actually worked on a scene where you do have an officer who was seriously injured on duty. So to maintain that professionalism, to do things exactly right. Now, one thing that does help it and makes it somewhat easier is the fact that the suspect is in custody or was shot. So it's not like the person's on the loose running around the city, they're trying to locate him. Even though it does seem very hectic right now, that really de-escalates it quite a bit, just knowing that that person hasn't been stopped and there may not be other people involved, so you don't have another search going on trying to find other people who are involved.
I know that there's a lot of different possible scenarios this morning for a narcotics officer who's off duty. I mean, he may have driven up on something and seen something. Can you just kind of, discuss how it is when you're off duty, but this is your job and your life, and you see something that could possibly be going wrong or against the law?
Exactly. It's really hard to tell right now because it's such in the early stages and there's so much that we don't know. He may have been tipped off by someone. Someone may have given him information, or he may have seen something suspicious himself and decided to act. All that is unknown right now, but, as a police officer, that's what they do. If they see something or they're informed about something that's illegal or that they feel they need to act on, police officers are just going to do that. And it seems like he may have made the right precautions by calling in other units because other units didn't respond to the scene.
I know you touched on this a little bit, and so did Sheriff Williams, about it gets very emotional when you're an officer and you're having to investigate and it involves one of your own. Yes,
I remember back in 95 or 96 when Burtner was shot on duty. You had so many officers there. Emotions were very high, but what made that scene difficult is that the suspect was still barricaded. So you had that in there, and the barricaded suspect's family was there also. So you had so many things going on. This situation is a bit different. The scenes are more controlled, so they can take their time and process the scenes, as it needs to be.
Yeah, and typically, does it take longer when when it's an officer shooting involved to investigate those scenes, to collect that evidence?
No, it doesn't take longer, and it's handled as any other crime scene. Now, of course, a police officer being shot is not more important than any other citizen being shot, but the emotion is just different. I remember a few months ago when the news reporter, I forgot what city that was in, the reporter and the photographer were shot. And I remember walking to the newsroom at Channel 4, and it was a much different feeling then, because it was like it was one of your own, and you can relate to that being out there on the street and doing reports yourself. So reporters just felt completely different. The same is true with the police officers too. You know, it's another crime scene, but the emotions are just so much higher when it involves another police officer.
That's a very good comparison. Thank you so much for joining us to give us a little bit more perspective. We'll also be checking in with Gil today as we get more details about this incident, and as soon as we get any new information out here on the scene, we will, of course, let you guys know back there in the newsroom. Bruce and Jen, back to you.
All right, thank you, Nikki. It's also interesting to note that Sheriff Williams pointed out that there were other officers involved, or not involved, who saw things unfold. These are trained observers, so they'll have a pretty good picture of what came down as this off-duty narcotics officer was confronted by the suspect, who then took off and was shot and taken down by police at another location. All right, traffic is going to be an issue on Collins Road throughout the better part of the day because this scene will remain very active.
These kinds of investigations can take hours, if not longer.